something of a completely different order can be revealed. Reality simply reveals itself. That's all it does. It doesn't come into existence and you don't come towards it, you don't buddy up to it or unify with it or, I don't know, get into some tantric thing with the divine. It's been one from the very beginning. Nothing and nobody ever achieves separation, but you damn sure can convince yourself that there's separation, can't you? You sure can feel it. You sure can experience as if there is separation. Just like you can when you dream at night. You sure can feel like you're flying or being chased by a nasty monster or whatever's happening. But all you're doing is laying there in bed, conjuring it all up in your head. So if you can see for yourself, that's what I want you to be able to do. See for yourself what I'm talking about. Don't accept it or reject it. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If everyone went, I believe you, Adya, I'd go, well, doesn't make any difference. It's not going to help you to believe me. I disbelieve you. I think you're totally wrong. You know, we should all pursue many lifetimes until we get to nirvana. You know, fine, knock yourself out, have a good time. I don't want to get in anybody's way. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is, do you see for yourself? Through your experience, right? So that you're the authority. You're the authority of your experience, not me. That's another thing I want to impart at the very beginning. It's you. It's up to you. You're the authority of your experience. You're the one. You can look at it. You can make your own conclusions. Does that make sense? I know in the whole spiritual business with, enlightened people sitting before you that people think, I just believe them because they said it and they're supposed to be enlightened. It said so in the brochure, or they have a nice look in their eye, or they look like they came from outer space or something, It's nonsense, though. Right? And so, therefore, what happens when you walk in with that attitude, even you don't even often know you even have the attitude, but when you walk in and you listen or you even read something with that attitude, all of a sudden you're in an attitude where you're just receiving information. Depending on how you're hooked up, you'll either decide that you believe it or disbelieve it, like it or don't like it. But that doesn't matter. That's just illusion too. What matters is everyone looking for themselves. Because see, what you look for yourself and what you see for yourself belongs to you. It doesn't belong to somebody. It doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to somebody that wrote a book. It doesn't belong to Buddha or Jesus or some other wise person that might have said it 2,000 years ago. If whatever you see for yourself belongs to you, you saw it. It's not borrowed. And in the enlightenment game, there is no such thing as riding to enlightenment on the coattails of someone else. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. The avatars can't even pull it off. All their devotees think they can, but they can't. Because if they could, they wouldn't have devotees. It would be like Walmart for enlightened, Come in, touch you out of the head, now you're done. Right? Boom. It's all, who would need to be a follower? So I'm always trying to impart, it's like, you can and you must look for yourself. To use a modern sort of hip phrase, it's very empowering when you realize you can do that. I'm just here to say, look at this, look at that. Are you sure you're not deceiving yourself there? Are you sure you're not deceiving yourself there? Really? Is that really true? Is it not? You have to come up with the answer. That's what a teacher does. So when you see this little piece about running away from something or running towards something creates the whole illusion of separation, isolation, feeling like you're stuck within your own psychology. Trying to run away from it is what makes you feel stuck in it. So that informs, for those of you who haven't been on a retreat with me before, that informs the whole approach that I have to sitting silently, better known as meditation. That's all it is. Don't grasp at anything. Don't push anything away. And you can't even help it sometimes. All of a sudden, you're just sitting there. All of a sudden, you're grasping. Right? You didn't even decide to grasp, but you're grasping. Or you're avoiding. I don't like this. And you didn't even know you were avoiding. You didn't make any conscious decision to avoid. Have any of you had that happen, right? So before you're grasping, you're avoiding, before you know it, you're just like sitting there, of course, looking very serene. Someone could take a picture of your psychic state. It would be, look like fireworks display, And so I know that most of this happens totally spontaneously. So people hear or read or listen to me when I talk about meditation, and I just say, let everything be. And what they hear is, my job is to let everything be. And then before you know it, you're sitting there and you're not letting everything be, right? Spontaneously. You didn't sit there and decide to not let something be. It just spontaneously spun and you're kind of... And then you think, I failed. I can't, God, only thing I'm doing is not allowing anything to be. But see, to meditate is actually just to watch. It's not even to try to be the watcher. You're not trying to be the witness. You're not trying to create distance. It's just watching. You ever gone out to nature and you watch something? You saw a deer and everyone, hush, deer. And you just watched. Moves along the forest and eats some grass and maybe steps on a twig and you hear the crackle and might turn suddenly to look at you and everyone's just looking. That's watching. That's watching. It's simple. It's natural, right? You're not trying to manufacture a spiritual watcher, right? I am now going to be the witness of all of my internal insanity. No. That's a subtle form of running away, right? What if you watched it like you watched that deer that you don't want to scare away? You're interested then, right? Ooh. Be quiet, I'm watching the deer. You're not like, I'm trying to be the watcher. See, the deer's over there. I'm over here. And there's this distance, and it feels good because I'm not in the deer's business. Right? So it just moves by like a river, and I'm free. And you see, it's nonsense. I mean, it might be okay at a certain rudimentary point, but you see how easy it is that our minds create images of things like just watching? They create an image and it's all spiritualized and you're trying to be the... And yet you forget that you've all watched things with interest. You've watched the deer, you've watched the sunset, you've watched something you're interested in, you've watched it, and you've been very quiet. You notice how when you're watching something like that, your mind is quiet? You ever noticed? If you go, oh, there's a deer. Your mind's quiet. Because you're interested in what you're watching. You're not even trying to quiet your mind. Remember the principle, if you run away from something or towards something, you generate illusion. So if you try to quiet your mind, what happens? Pretty noisy place to be, right? I'll tell you a secret. If you watched your mind like you watch a deer in the forest, quiet. Because then you're interested in what you're watching. What you're watching then is the most important thing in the world to you, and your mind quiets right down. You can watch anything. Watch your breathing. But watch it like you watch a deer, or watch a bird, or watch a sunset, or something you're captivated by. Watch it in a natural way. You get the feel of it? Remember, like a moment when you watched like that, when you looked at something. I don't know what you looked at. A child, a beautiful dress in the window, a Harley Davidson in the showroom. You know, who knows what it was that you're, oh, wow. That's watching. That's letting everything be. That's meditating. Get the feel? So your mind takes you on a vacation. So what? So what? You didn't decide it for the most part, probably did you? So what? Why get upset about something that you had no control over? Man, the day I realized that was stunning. Have you realized that yet? I mean, you may have heard it, but have you realized that yet? Man, the day I saw that, it just about rolled my socks off my feet without me touching them. Somebody that spent, hours a day meditating, trying to stop, control, focus the mind. And it hit me one day. It just hit me. Out of the blue. Grace. Call it what you will. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing the thinking. They just come. My thoughts are that I don't want to think, but it doesn't seem to matter. Nothing seems to be listening to me. Right? Yeah. Your mind doesn't seem to be listening to your mind, right? God, it happens all by itself. What's the use in feeling bad about it then? That's silly. You don't feel bad because you breathe. I mean, that happens all by itself. Your heart beats by itself. You don't wish that would stop. Not too often anyway. It just happens. And again, as soon as you drop out of the game of trying to control it, resistant or indulgent, all of a sudden it quiets down quite a bit. So the whole of the spiritual life is very much like that. All the things that you're trying to get rid of are there because you're trying to get rid of them. Whether it's your mind or how you feel or resentment or anger or whatever it might be, feeling of being separate, distance from God, whatever. It's all there because you don't want it there. Now you can't suddenly want it to be there. Okay, well then I'll actually want to be separate. No. You can trick yourself, but you can't trick illusion. The illusion's much smarter than you or I. I mean infinitely smart. You can't fool illusion. Illusion can fool you, and easily. But you can't fool illusion. You can't play games with it. So all you can do is see its nature. Aha! Every time I try to move away from it, it just generates more. And then there's a quietness. If you've ever had any kind of what they call spiritual experiences, most of which aren't awakening, by the way, but if you've ever had any kind of spiritual experience, you have it. Feels good. Most of them feel good. And then you want more. And you're trying to get more, and then you don't get it, right? And then either out of exhaustion, or you just forget to want it for a moment, and all of a sudden, there it is again. And then you think, how'd I do that? Well, I was wanting it just before it happened, but I wasn't wanting it when it happened. So then you go about wanting it again. And then you want it and you want it and you do things to recreate it. None of them work. And then you kind of get exhausted or you just forget to want and struggle and strive and all of a sudden it happens again. It's almost like a cruel cartoon joke. Until you start to see from a bigger perspective, until you start to see, aha, the whole time I'm trying to make it happen, it doesn't happen. And for whatever reason that I stop trying, even for an instant, then something happens. Oh. And the understanding can stop you. There's a gap, just a pause. You can actually feel that pause in yourself. But we don't trust that kind of pause, do we? That gap. A gap happens and mind says, how did I get here? How do I stay here? Just doesn't trust. One of the great spiritual poems of all time, written by you think I know, third patriarch, sixth patriarch, I forget. I think the third patriarch. The first lines, the great way, which means freedom, the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. That's the kicker. Sometimes it's translated as the great way is neither easy nor difficult for those who have no preferences. Preferences doesn't mean like you got to stop liking chocolate ice cream more than vanilla or something, you know. Preferences means pushing, pulling, striving, grasping, pushing away, struggling, seeking. And you experience that in yourself. You experience that gap, that pause. If there's a surrender, it's the surrender into that pause. Just surrendering everything into that pause. And from that place, what you really, really, really are becomes apparent. Because nobody in this room, who you really, really, really are, isn't even the person who's trying to realize who you really, really, really are. That's not who you are. The person that's trying to get there and trying to realize it and trying to, who am I really, 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 who am I? The person that's doing that, that's not really who you are. That seeker, it's not really who you are. It's just an energy running through your system. It's just a thought stream. That's all it is. So you're not even the one that's trying to realize who you are. That's not you. Before that, during that seeking, and after that seeking, all of it, right in the middle of it, there's just a silent, aware presence. It's not seeking. It's not looking for anything. It's not waiting for nirvana or realization, awakening or enlightenment. It's not waiting for you to get your act together, get your mind quiet, change yourself, or enter any kind of altered state. That silent, aware presence is just there. It's just there. It's always been there. It's always been who we are, what we are. Always. All the rest is just convincing mental chatter. And there's nothing wrong with the mental chatter. There's nothing wrong with the person you thought you were, because it was just a thought. I mean, how can a thought be good or bad, really? I mean, painful or less painful, but that's all. Just that silent, aware presence. And if your mind says to you, where's that? What is that? What is he talking about? Let me just tell your mind, you don't have to understand. It's okay to ask the question, but then after the question, there's a question mark. Just live in the question mark, right? There's the silent aware presence right there. Just nothing to understand. It was never a theory or philosophy or anything. It's just silent, aware presence. That's all. Imagine that. Just imagine this whole thing's that simple. Kind of embarrassing, huh? You know what my teacher did when she recognized the silent, aware presence? She was at a retreat with her teacher, a well-known Zen teacher at the time. And, you still have a mind, everybody's mind will react differently. Some will laugh, some will kind of cry, some will whatever. My teacher, she got pissed off. Which I love that, because it's totally opposite of her character. She's a very well put together, wonderfully manicured woman, And she got pissed off and she ran in. She had a private meeting with her Zen teacher, and he was sitting there on the floor with his Zen stick, and the robes and the whole thing. And she went in and she grabbed the stick out of his hand. Now, mind you, when you go to see your master in a private meeting, there's a whole ritual. You go in the door, you bow, you go up to your master, you bow all the way to the floor, put your head to the floor. I mean, very, very respectful. She walks in, fit to be tied, grabs his staff, stands up, and she's just about to whack him over the head. And she thinks, you put me through all this for this? Because what she saw was, this had always been here. How could you have convinced me to kill myself, which you tend to do in Zen retreats, And of course he saw. Even through all that, he just looked up at her, he saw exactly where she was, and he just started laughing. Just a belly laugh. Laughing, tears coming down his eyes. So of course she started laughing and gave his stick back, and they had a great laugh. You mean this? This that we really are? It's not at the end of 15 lifetimes of spiritual practice. You don't earn your way there. Whatever it takes to stop for just a moment. That's all. If it takes you 15 lifetimes to be convinced to just stop for a moment and see what you are, so be it. Have a great time. If it takes 2 seconds, fine. That's about 1.5 seconds more than necessary. Then you get that taste. And your mind then might say, oh, that's so great. How do I hold on to that? And if you don't fall for it, you just go, bless your little heart. Good try. Good try. And it'll try 100 more times, 1,000 more times, 100,000 more times. You better hold on to this. You might lose it. Something might take it away. I can't go back to work, I'll lose it. If I could just be on retreat all the time, I'd never lose it. And it's easy to be convinced, is it not? Any of those stories, they're very convincing, they seem very reasonable. But none of them are true. You can't lose what you are, can you? I always tell people, forget about trying to maintain anything. You can't maintain reality. Forget about maintaining your awakening or whatever, your enlightenment. Forget that. If you're going to ask any question, ask yourself, how am I unenlightening myself right now? Since enlightenment is nothing but reality. Right? So what's always and already happening. It is who and what you always and already are. Always. So there is no way to get to what you are, is there? There's no place to arrive at being. If you're already there, how are they going to get there? Imagine your feet asked you what direction they needed to walk to come and to find themselves. Imagine your foot comes to you, I'm looking for myself. Where do I walk to? Where am I? I'm sure I'm here somewhere. right? Well, walk left. Okay. No. There's a guru over there that says, walk that way. Okie dokie. Sit down there and look within. Okay. Still, okay. But none of that's right. It's all looking. It's all looking. What would you tell your foot? You pat it on the head. God, that must be tough. Take a rest. So you just see through the game. You just see through the game. You just see through the game till the game has no more power. You can't figure it out.